Day on the equinox and president of the Earth Society Foundation, I would like to welcome our guests and honorees to this celebration of the vernal equinox in the north and the autumnal equinox in the south. When the earth is in balance and when we should reflect on our relationship to the earth and its systems. I am Marcia Brewster. I'm on the board of the Earth Society Foundation and president of the UN Association of Westchester County, of which Monica is a member. I worked in the Sustainable Development Division of the UN for 30 years in Bangkok and in New York. And I observed how the principles of the UN evolved over the last 40 years. The current agenda is focused on the Sustainable Development Goals. And Chris will pass out flyers for anybody who would like them. They're called the SDGs, or the Global Goals for short. These were historically adopted by all of the UN's 193 members in 2015. The 17 goals are a to-do list for the world to achieve by 2030. They strive to end poverty, protect the earth, and ensure prosperity for all. There is more information about the goals in the colorful flyer that Chris Swain is going to hand out. The global goals reflect a vision we can all buy into. Countries of all different sizes, shapes, and situations were able to unite and agree that all these goals are important. They provide a roadmap for a better world that we can all work towards. The global goals and the future they represent belong to everyone, and we all have a stake in their success. It's true that the global goals start at home, which is why we're honoring some of the many leaders and organizations who are implementing these goals at home, whether they know it or not. We will be honoring several of them later in the program. The purpose of today's gathering is to ring the peace bell at the exact moment of the equinox, which will occur at 12:15 in New York. There are simultaneous celebrations going on in Europe, New Zealand, and Asia, as well as in Gloucester, Massachusetts, where Helen Garland and her group of honorees will be ringing their bells. All will be celebrating according to their time zones. The peace bell was first rung on the equinox in 1970 by Secretary General U Thant. He decided that the March equinox would be Earth Day, and he made that decision in 1970. This initiative has somewhat been overshadowed by the Earth Day that's celebrated on April 22nd, but the UN and the Earth Society Foundation still celebrate Earth Day on the equinox. Okay, this year the Earth Society Foundation is honoring those who embody the true values and ideals of the United Nations, particularly related to protection of planet Earth. In 2016, the landmark Paris Agreement on climate change was signed by the United Nations, by the United States, China, and some 120 other countries. The signing satisfied a key requirement for the entrance into force of the historic Paris Climate Accord, adopted by consensus by 195 nations at the 2015 United Nations Conference on Climate Change in Paris. At this year's Equinox Peace Bell ceremony, the program will focus on the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular, climate action, SDG 13, water and sanitation, SDG 6, and partnerships for the goals, SDG 17. The Earth Society Foundation is also awarding the following recipients in recognition of their contribution to care of the earth. Felicia Young, New York City Earth Celebrations, Ecological Cities, which celebrates SDG 11. Governor Kashim Shettima from Nigeria, Cleaning the River Delta, Fighting Big Oil, which I'm calling SDG 6, which is water and sanitation. Governor and Senator Dr. Arthur Efieni Okowa, who is the Nigerian environmental activist, and that would be SDG 13, climate action, and SDG 15, care of the earth. And our own Christopher Swain, who is the water quality activist and swims the dirtiest rivers in the world, which is SDG 6, water and sanitation. Do you want to say something, Chris?
I'll just say quickly, most of you know me as the guy who swam the entire length of the Hudson River and the Gowanus Canal and Newtown Creek and different waterways, some of them freakier and dirtier than others. I think what's underneath all of it for me is that we're one human family and that these are resources that we share. So I guess I agree with my academically minded friends at the UN that clean water is a prerequisite for the realization of all the other human rights. If you pull clean water out of any community, it will collapse. Any organization, it will collapse. Any system. So I don't like to separate those two, which is why you see me sometimes doing Swims for Human Rights. Last year doing the Swims in Support of World Refugee Day, trying to help UNHCR raise money for education and the refugee camps and the rest of it. I think that above all, the thing I'd say standing here is the nice thing about an equinox is that it's an astronomical moment. It doesn't belong to any nation. It doesn't belong to any religion. It can be a reminder that we are one people and that we have it in us, each of us, to open our arms to the world.
And I've been engaging communities through creative and cultural strategies. On the local level, grassroots level, from saving community gardens to engaging community and river restoration efforts here in New York as well as in India, but through a process of creative collaboration. And we've been able to actually implement policy change and are moving forward now through the Ecological City Project, which is on May 12th, celebrating climate solutions that are not just being imagined, but actually being implemented on the ground throughout the Lower East Side in New York City. Everything from bioswales and pollinator gardens and community solar and green roofs and oyster planting to organically cleanse the river. So there are many, many initiatives underway, and all of these local efforts also connect to our global climate challenges. So,
Ready? Your Society Foundation is also awarding Iva Kaufman, New York City Farm to Table and Sustainability Activist, recognition for their contribution to Care of the Earth, and that would support SDG 2, which is eliminating hunger.
Yes.
Would you like to say a few words, Iva?
Yes, I'd like to say that I'm honored to receive this award and happy to be here with all of you. It's been a long road of activism on environmental issues. I think I started with the Holy Land Conservation Fund in the Middle East and into an arc today where we see that Syria and climate change are one of the main focal points of what's been affecting our world and peace in our world and environmental justice in our world and refugees in our world. So I'd like to speak for the human right to SDG number 2, ending hunger, and all of the 17 SDGs on behalf of myself in my role as chair of the Circumpolar Conservation Union Board, as a board member of the Peace Development Fund, and as a founder of the People's Movement for Human Rights Learning. Thank you.
Who's the former president of the Earth Society Foundation.
I just wanted to remind us all of the original purpose and the purest purpose of Earth Day, which is to honor the earth, peace, justice, and to take care of the earth and the people on it. I think it's also important to remember all the rights, the children's rights that are so often forgotten, the women's rights, that health is a human right, and that we today are celebrating all the freedoms and all the beautiful things that the earth can and has and will produce in peace together with its inhabitants. Thank you so much.
5 seconds.
Care of the earth
4,
and the people on it.
3,
Congratulations,
2,
Earth Day.
1. Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. Okay.
Everybody bring it and just pass it around.
Happy Earth Day. Yes, I'm Marcia Krister. I'm speaking on behalf of Helen Garland. who is the chairman of the Earth Society Foundation, and we've been ringing the peace bell at 12:15 inside the visitors entrance of the United Nations in New York. And right now we're standing in front of the Peace Bell, and I have a couple of the honorees with me right here. Christopher Swain, who swims waterways to raise awareness of water quality, and Felicia Young, who has been doing a lot on improving environment in cities. So thank you very much, Dr. Leong. It's good to be here.